Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. As you know, and if you're not sure, you know now, my name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host of this podcast. We're talking about golf course architecture, we're talking about greenkeeping, we're talking about golf in general, more broadly, we're talking about all sorts of things around the sport of golf, but mostly, from my perspective, we get to deep dive into a lot of things. And also, I'm going to update you on what's happening around Australia. This is an Australian-based podcast for anyone new who might be listening, and I'm going to update you about what's happening around the country with the Walking The Faiways segment. Now, I hope you've enjoyed the US Masters 2024 this year. Looks like it's been a pretty incredible 4 days. This is being recorded right towards the very end, but got to be honest, the first 3 rounds were pretty exceptional, lots of stuff happening, but I just sort of fell out of it a little bit towards the end of the last round. Looks like Scheffler, if I just load this up on my phone right now, it looks like Scheffler is probably at an unbeatable position right now with only a couple of holes to play. I'm just going to see. We'll see how that plays out. At the moment, he's got a couple of shots over Arberg, however you want to pronounce it. And lots of people were hoping for a few others to win. Certainly Scheffler proving that he is the world number one if he takes this out. But I hope you've enjoyed the US Masters, and I'll leave that one there right now. And congratulations to whoever will be the winner in the end. But it looks like it's going to be Scheffler. This is Walking the Fairways. Got lots to update you on. It has been a while. This is episode number 86. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Walking the Fairways, how this works and how we go about it is we traverse the country, and I update you on all things that are happening through different states and different golf courses around the country as I see them, as I come across the information. I want to update you on what's happening. So we go state by state, usually in different regions, and look, it's just, let's start walking, shall we? It's been a long time. Come and join me for this lovely walk. Now, I'm going to start in the Gulf state. I'm going to call it the Gulf state that is Victoria, the tremendous state that it is for golf travel, golf in general. It's just golf nuts. They're amazing down there. And we're going into one of the best golf courses of Australia down in the Sandbelt. We're going to Metropolitan Golf Club. And Metro have recently completed, very, very recently, in a matter of days, in fact, recently completed officially stage 1 of their greens restoration program and course enhancement plan, led by, of course, the wonderful superintendent, John Mann. They've done the front 9, is my understanding, of the works involved on stage 1, and like I said, it's just been opened. So the golf course architect involved is Paul Mogford from Craft Mogford, which you might have heard of. They've been involved with the club for these works, so we can expect some pretty impressive things to come as a result of any design changes to those to any of the golf holes on the front 9. So you've got good pairings. John Mann, we know. You've heard the interview with John that I've had on last year. Wonderful, very, very talented superintendent. And so, of course, the club and anyone visiting and members and guests can expect some pretty impressive stuff once you're able to get back out there and have a game on those newly worked front 9 holes. You might recall that as I mentioned, I spoke to John last year on the pod, and they've been moving through these works, and it's a credit. There's a lot of work doing 9 holes in the best part. I think it's only been about 5 or 6 months that this work's been completed, and started towards the end of last year. So, yeah, they're about 6-7 months. Started towards the end of last year, and John Mann, like I said, very talented. Fantastic team, so it's a big credit to John and the whole team on course at Metropolitan Golf Club there in Melbourne. So congratulations, team. Now, we're going to go not too far, but we're sticking on the Sandbelt. Big news that's coming out there is Huntingdale Golf Club and the redevelopment of that whole golf course. It's a big deal, and the golf course is currently being dug up. So it's a big deal. Full new design happening for the golf course. It's part of this amalgamation, if you like, of the two joining the clubs, which will be Huntingdale and Cranbourne Golf Club. In time, Cranbourne will ultimately close down. If you haven't heard the news, you've heard it now. The wonderful golf course that is Cranbourne, led by Superintendent Nico Douglas, who I've also interviewed on the pod. Geez, I've done some great people, haven't I? Fantastic. If you haven't listened, just go back and search. There's some great insight into these golf courses. And if you haven't had a chance to play Cranbourne, get down there and have a game if you have the opportunity to have a game. Wonderful golf course. I've walked around. Nico showed me around it. Fantastic. And a shout out to Nico and the team down there. But this is part of the amalgamation, the joining of the two clubs, if you like, a little bit similar in a way to Peninsula Kingswood. But they're doing a full redevelopment of the golf course site at Huntingdale, done by OCM. The design firm OCM, Ogilvy, Cocking and Mead, and we know the great work that they've done in Peninsula Kingswood is one that springs to mind, obviously nearby, not too far away. But this is an 18-hole complex that they're redoing, and the new design for the golf course, they've gone for a unique style design whereby, and I haven't looked it up recently, and I had done a while ago. It's fantastic to look at. I just sit and stare at this marvel, what they've come up with, the OCM team. It's like an 18-hole course, and I'm not sure if it's exactly 18 greens. There might be a couple of extra greens there, but there's going to be something like 3 or 5 different routings that can be used to provide an 18-hole golf course. So it might be 20 greens, and I'm happy to be corrected on that. But there's a different way that they can set up the golf course for different routings. So if you've seen, it's like Kingston Heath, for example, the tournament course that's often played is a different routing to the 18-hole golf course that's there for the members. And it's a really funny in the way that the junctions change and everything. But this one at Huntingdale is going to be so much more versatile in so many more different ways, and actually different holes altogether, not just a different routing where... Yeah, it's really unique, and if I find the images of the plans, I'm going to put them up on my social media, so keep an eye on that because it's going to be one to follow. Big development happening, and a very, very unique design that's come from the OCM team, like I said, and big credit to the club of Huntingdale and Cranbourne as they move forward. It's a big deal, a fantastic site as we know there on the Sandbelt, and this is going to be something very, very, very interesting indeed to follow, and certainly something special. I think is what they're going for here. So fantastic stuff down there in Melbourne at Huntingdale. So there's a little bit coming out of Victoria. Got a bit coming on this show today, so I want to keep moving through the states as much as I can because I've got some great stuff coming out the back end of this, and you're going to love it. So we're going to go all the way to WA, Western Australia, and I'm going to start off with a little bit of old news, actually, that I haven't mentioned before because I haven't done Walking the Fairways for quite some time, as I just mentioned. So a little bit of old news, and that is Jason Johnson, who you might remember that I interviewed last year. Actually, it might have even been a couple of years ago now, 18 months ago, on the podcast. He was superintendent of Broome Golf Club up there in the far northwest, and he's unfortunately since moved on from Broome. So Jason's no longer the superintendent there. He's actually left the golf industry. Now I know Jason. I've got to know Jason quite well. We've been chatting away a little bit. He's actually gone out and started his own turf and consulting business up there in Broome. So if you an unsolicited plug here for Jason. So if you're up there and you live in Broome and you need any new turf, lawn or irrigation work done, Jason is your man, I'm happy to tell you, and a very knowledgeable guy, very, very knowledgeable guy. He's been trialling some different grasses and things up there as well, so he's going all in, and congratulations to him to do it. But I am actually sad to see him leave the industry, and Jason's a genuine bloke, like very few that you'll come across, and I just think as an industry, we've lost a future leader in respect with Jason. I'm glad he's gone out on his own and he's kicking massive goals with his new business. So 10 points to Jason if you're listening, mate. I know you will be. Big fan of yours, and I know you're a fan of the pod too, mate. So look, sad to see you go, but there's a bit of news. So there's a changing of the guard up there at Broome Golf Club, and I'm not certain who the new superintendent is in that role yet, but I'll endeavour to find out. So if anyone knows, get in touch with me. Otherwise, I'll do my research and find out. Now, sticking with WA, we're going down to the southwestern corner into the capital region of Perth, and been seeing quite a few images coming out of the Links Kennedy Bay, which continues to grow in nicely. They're rebuilding that whole golf course there. Some changes to the course, as I've talked about in the past. It's been a while, and we're waiting to reopen the golf course there. It's growing in very well. There's always time that it takes to grow in golf courses from seed, and that's what's been happening over there in Perth. It's about an hour south of Perth City by car, thereabouts, just under an hour. So the Links Kennedy Bay, fantastic golf course. Graham Marsh design, lots of pretty awesome stuff. Certainly great images coming out of the Links Kennedy Bay there in Perth. One to keep an eye on for sure as we get closer to its opening date. We move to Mount Lawley. And they've recently opened stage 2 of their greens replacement program. Now, the design work has been done by OCM. There's that name again. You'll hear that a lot. They've got a lot of work going on. And you might have seen Mount Lawley. It has the 13th hole. It's a unique par 3, which had a green, and has a green now, even with the new design, a green in the shape of the map of Australia, if you like, the island continent of Australia. Quite interesting. Call it what you will. It's going to be a talking point more so now than it ever was. Certainly, it was a sort of a rounded style shape previously as it changed and evolved over time. But now it's very, very much an obvious map of Australia. Very unique and something that's been reimagined by the team at OCM there. So fantastic stuff. Now the greens have been seeded with 007 bent grass, and the course maintenance team led by Superintendent Rod Tatt have done a wonderful job bringing all this stuff to fruition, ready for golf, and it's brilliant. On an aside, actually, at last year's ASTMA conference, that's the annual Sports Turf Managers Association conference. Every year, the greenkeeping industry has the conference. Rod actually won the Claude Crockford Environmental and Sustainability Award. So shout out to Rod. I don't know Rod, but that's an impressive win. I've always said that's our industry's most prestigious award, the Claude Crockford, and congratulations to Rod, who won it last year. He's obviously a very, very talented and a highly regarded superintendent in Australia, and does an incredible job over there. And Mount Lawley have moved through some pretty awesome stuff. So again, lots happening, very impressive going on at Mount Lawley in WA. Now we head from WA to the Northern Territory up to the top end, and going to go straight up to Humpty Doo Golf Club. Shout out to head greenkeeper Jimmy Downs. He sent me a couple of things, and we chat from time to time on socials. Jimmy's obviously doing a fantastic job up there, and a bit of an update on course for everyone listening. It's a 9-holer at Humpty Doo, and Jimmy's got a new 4th green that was sprigged a couple of months ago and is currently being grown in. So shout out to, like I said, to Jimmy and the new 4th green that's happening there on course at Humpty Doo. So there's something new coming in there at Humpty Doo, and it's a very, very positive move for a 9-hole golf course, any golf course, when they're getting a new green. So obviously one that they've chosen to rebuild, and it's going to be a big improvement on what was there and what they're going to have soon. Fantastic stuff. Now, the only thing is, up at the top end at this time of year, they've had a few dramas with a bit of rain. And when I say a bit of rain, I mean a monsoon, because that's what happens up there at the top end. We've had a lot recently here along the East Coast again, but a monsoon is a completely different ballgame. And when that shit happens, it just doesn't stop raining. So altogether. And they call it the wet season for a reason, I guess. So Jimmy, look, you'll have to send me some photos, mate, if you're listening. And I know you do listen from time to time. So throw us a couple of photos, mate, and I'll post them up on socials. But Humpty Doo up there at the top end is getting a new 4th green happening at the moment. So good stuff. Now, there's also another little bit of news here, and I come across this one by sheer chance on browsing the socials. There's a new golf course that's going to be built very soon up at Darwin. And the reason I come across it is Ben Davey from Contour Golf posted some photos from a site visit that he conducted up there not so long ago. And look, I don't know a lot about it. I'm going to have a chat with Ben, maybe a little bit. Might even see if I can get him on the pod and see if we can talk about it. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see how we go. I want to find out more. But it's a new golf course, brand new build. My understanding it was one that had sort of stopped in early progress quite a few years ago, but it looks like it's going to be happening. So I saw a couple of photos. I'll throw them out on socials. I'll grab them off Ben Davies' social, the Contour Golf social pages, and put them up so you can see what they are. But this shit doesn't happen very often. And as far as my understanding goes, and thanks to Finding Fairways, to Lock and Leash, the bit of backed up data is that Northern Territory only has 11 golf courses. So this will make 12, is my understanding. It's one to watch, a brand new course up there at the top end, and one to see just what it's all about and what's going on there. So fantastic stuff happening at the top end, which isn't always known for golf, and that's good to hear. We go across and we move east and we go into the Sunshine State of Queensland. A little bit of news, and it's recent news. First up, and that's Superintendent Paul McLean, who used to be at Sanctuary Cove on the Gold Coast, the fantastic 36-hole facility that Sanctuary Cove is. Now, Paul has recently moved on from Sanctuary Cove and taken on a role of superintendent at Singapore Island Country Club over in Singapore, obviously. Now, this place is a really big facility. So, look, Sanctuary Cove was fantastic, certainly one of the best, if not the best, on the Gold Coast. And the move to Singapore Island Country Club, it's a big facility. It's got 3 golf courses on it, and it's really, really top-level stuff. So congratulations to Paul on the move, and I certainly wish Paul good luck. And I thank Paul also. You might recall very early on in my segments of Keeper of the Greens, Paul was one of the earliest people that I interviewed on Keeper of the Green, so quite a few episodes ago now. Fantastic bloke, lovely, lovely gentleman Paul is. So a shout out to Paul, and I wish him all the best over there in Singapore. It's a big step up, obviously, and something very special going on there. And another move that happened late last year, actually, so this is a bit older news, but I've got to mention it because it was another podcast interview that I did, was Mick Pascoe, formerly of Noosa, working at Noosa Golf Club as a superintendent there on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. He, like I mentioned, he's also been someone I've interviewed in Keeper of the Greens segment, and Mick has made the move to Indonesia to a brand new golf course being built. It's going to be called Trump International Golf Club Lido. And it's being designed by the Ernie Els Design Group. So Ernie Els, the Big Easy, is behind the design of this one. It's about an hour south of Jakarta for anyone who travels to Indonesia. It's being built. Mick sent me some photos towards the end of last year, and I got to tell you, it looks bloody impressive. So Mick's all over it. He's taken the leap to go over there. Big new build, lots of new stuff happening. It's in his wheelhouse with really high humidity and zoysia grasses and all that sort of stuff. So there you go. Trump International Golf Club Lido is going to be the name of it, and Mick Pascoe is the man leading the charge to build the golf course in and get it up to something pretty special. So shout out to Mick if he's listening, as well as a couple of people who have moved around that I have to mention that I've interviewed. So I always like to let everyone know what's been happening around in those positions as well when we find out. Now I'm going to stay in Queensland, a golf course that I've not talked about before, Virginia Golf Club. Now Virginia Golf Club is in the northern suburbs of Brisbane, and this is one I haven't reported on before, but it's one that I have visited quite a number of years ago, and I was quite surprised. Virginia's a 27-hole golf facility, if you're not sure, and it's known as the Course of Champions. And when I remember driving in the gates, I was like, what the hell, the Course of Champions? What's this Virginia? It's over just, I think, to the northwest-ish, just of the, it's nearby the airport, but on the northern suburbs of Brisbane. And I was thinking to myself, Course of Champions, what's that all about? Well, it turns out that Greg Norman and Wayne Grady began their golfing careers there, which blew me away. So, look, that's the background of the name, their tagline, the Course of Champions. So, look, I'm going to get into what the news is there in Walking the Fairways. And earlier this year, they rebuilt their 22nd green. Like I said, it's a 27-hole facility. So they rebuilt their 22nd green. Now, the 22nd hole of their 27 holes, the 22nd hole is on the southern portion of the golf course, and it's a short par 4. Now, the greens just reopened for play this past week, I should say, and it looks pretty sharp. A couple of images they've had on social media. So Virginia are doing a little bit of work. It looked like a golf course that when I went there, I said probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, it looked like a golf course that's obviously was in its heyday, was really, really popular, 27 holes, and clearly it still was, but I just wasn't sure where it was going. And now here we are 6 or 7 years later, and they've rebuilt a green. So clearly they're moving forward, the membership's moving forward, and they've got some money to utilise in improving the golf course, which is always good to see. That's how you know a golf course is moving forward well, when they're doing these sorts of big projects from time to time. A green isn't a cheap exercise. It's a big deal. So when golf clubs are doing it, they're doing well. And it's a sign of that progress, which is great. Now, incidentally, if you go to Virginia, they have some really great memorabilia at the back end of the clubhouse from Wayne Grady, both Wayne Grady and Greg Norman, and it's easy to see as a visitor and certainly as a member. They obviously know it. I found it really interesting. So if you do go that way, if you get a chance and you're up in Brisbane and you're looking for somewhere to go and have a game, try out Virginia, but have a look at the memorabilia down the back of the golf club. I come across it by accident. Fantastic. Really, really good to see. So that's a little bit of what's happening at Queensland, up in Queensland. We're going to switch and go all the way down the southern end to the Apple Isle to Tasmania. All I've got to say is 7 Mile Beach! Exclamation point. That's all. There is so much stuff on socials images coming out of 7 Mile Beach there. Matt Goggins' dream golf course. Had Matt on the podcast last year, you might recall, so shout out to Matt, and certainly the CDP team that are behind the design work, Mike Clayton and Mike DeVries, and it's just phenomenal. I don't need to say anything else, but there is so much going on, and probably a little bit unfairly to the rest of the state. It's taking up everyone's eyeballs, but it's one we're looking at, and it's sucking up all the attention at the moment. So look, and it's probably fair, but probably a little bit unfair as well. There's plenty of good golf in Tassie, and there's lots of photos on their social media page, and it's just bloody impressive. And as we get closer to the opening date, look, it's just really exciting. Really exciting. Construction work has now been completed, and now it's just all growing on the golf course to get it up and ready for play. So I'm not sure when that's happening. I think they're talking late 2024, but that's obviously a little bit weather permitting also as well. And but all the best to the team down there and to Matt Goggin behind it and everyone involved. It's certainly something that we're waiting on. And don't forget, if you haven't listened to that podcast episode with Matt Goggin, go back through a few episodes and find it and listen to it. It's very, very interesting to listen to Matt talk about what the goal is and what the essence is of 7 Mile Beach. So fantastic stuff down there at 7 Mile. Now move to the ACT. We're going to come back up. We're going to go to the ACT, and a big one happening in Canberra is Royal Canberra Golf Club, where there's two big things happening, but we're going to start off with Royal Canberra Golf Club, and they've just completed stage 1 conversion of their fairways from bent grass to Santa Ana Couch. Now, it was a long process for the club to come to the decision to convert their fairways, but it was a big decision. These things don't happen lightly. Fairways are a large space. So they did their due diligence. They trialled it on one of their par threes. I think it was the 7th hole from memory. I'm happy to be corrected again. I'm just thinking about it when I went back and I did see it there when they were doing the trials. And look, I don't need to speak for Santa Ana. Everyone knows that I love Santa Ana grass. I'm crazy about it. I'm glad to hear that this is what the move is that they've done down there at Royal Canberra. They will do an impressive job, and I say they, being Superintendent Ryan Storrs and his team, are going to do a fantastic job presenting Santa Ana Couch fairways for Royal Canberra Golf Club. It will be the best thing that's happened down there since their rebuild of the golf course and reimagined golf course, which is fantastic. It's looking so good, and lots of things happening down there. So they've done stage 1. It's now completed, and very, very good things coming out of Royal Canberra. So looking forward to seeing more, and obviously stage 2 will be next. When that is, I'm not certain, but fantastic to hear that Royal Canberra have just completed their stage 1 conversion of their fairways. Really good stuff. Now, the other big thing happening down in Canberra in the ACT is Yawani Country Club. Now, Yawani has commenced work on their full course rebuild, and the design is done by Contour Golf and Ben Davey. Again, there's that name. Look, really, really interesting things going to come out of Yawani. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more about this. This is something that I might be able to get a little bit more information on as well. So I'll try and do that, but they're full-blown into digging it up. It's on for young and old down there. So lots of work. It's a full golf course redesign and rebuild. There's just machines on. It's go. So one to keep an eye on, one to keep an ear out of, an ear out for, I should say, is Yawani Country Club. And it's always had a great name, and this is going to really step up the place, no doubt, as well, with a full new design. So very exciting times, what's going on down there at Yawani, and I'll keep reporting on that as it comes through. Now we go to New South Wales. Into New South Wales, and I have to mention another former podcast guest, Liam Ash, who at the time was superintendent of Pennant Hills Golf Club. Now Liam has moved on from Pennant Hills and is no longer working in New South Wales, actually. So Liam, look, I've mentioned and spoken to Liam a little bit in the past. He's a fantastic bloke, Liam, dead set, champion guy. He's got a great resume and CV of places that he's worked, and he will continue to do great things in the greenkeeping turf space. He's not on a golf course at the moment, but look forward to seeing where Liam's career takes him next. But I did have to mention that Liam has moved on, and I believe the assistant superintendent at the time at Pennant Hills has stepped into the role of superintendent there. So that's really good. They've filled that place internally, so they quickly solved and worked themselves out since Liam had moved on, and it's good to see. Now, the big thing about New South Wales is there has been lots of rain recently. in Sydney and along the New South Wales coast, and there's been flooding again. It's been affecting many, many golf courses around the state and certainly within Sydney. Now, one to mention is Linwood Country Club in Western Sydney has again, along with many courses of the low-lying riverlands of Sydney, they've been inundated with floodwaters, and they've got a bit of work to do to clean it up. So shout out to the team out there at Linwood, and certainly I know Matt Bailey out there, general manager of the golf club, and look, if there's a team that can come through a flood out the other side with a golf course potentially better than it was, it's Linwood. Matt Bailey has been through thick and thin there, and a shout out to Matt because, and you know what, I've talked about it with Matt. I've got to get him on the pod, and there's a lot of got to gets on the pod going at the moment because I haven't done many episodes at all in the last 12 months. So I'm looking forward to when I can sit down with Matt and get him on for a yarn. But look, devastating stuff. I believe it wasn't as deep as the last flood by a few metres, which is positive. So a couple of the highest greens were kept out of the water. The flood waters kept over a few of the greens for about 3 days, I think 4 days, thereabouts. There's a lot of cleanup to do with floods, and there's plenty of golf courses in Sydney that were affected, but I'm going to shout out to Linwood. So I'm a big fan of Linwood, and I think it's a fantastic golf course, and they've got a lot of work to do. But like I said, they've probably got, I would say, I don't think there's a team better in Australia that can come back from floods any faster and put a golf course back into play. They've done it so many times over the past 4 years, and they will do it again. So, but put the floods to one side. Linwood are building also over there. They're also building a new mini golf course, so like a putt-putt style mini golf course that'll add to their already highly patronised golf club and golf course. They get so many people move through that joint. It's incredible. And this one will be no doubt, this will bring the kids and anyone who wants to have fun to the place. We know that mini golf's popping up left, right and centre all over the country, and it's a great way to get kids thinking about the game and getting them into the game of golf and having a little bit of fun to begin with when they're young. And I know my kids do. Savannah loves it. So look, good to see that's happening out there at Linwood as well. Fantastic. Now, a neighbour not far from Linwood is Riverside Oaks, along the river further downstream, and they have earlier this year, a couple of months ago, just started rebuilding their Bungool course. Now, it was completely devastated and ravaged by the last floods a year ago, I think it was, a couple of years ago. It's been smashed time and time again, and unfortunately, it was sat, and the owners of the club, the golf course, weren't able weren't making a move on it, but it's finally happening. And I know that they've just had these recent floods over it again, but they're starting the rebuild. So I'm hoping that this is really going to keep moving through and they're not going to put it aside and shelve it again. They're going to keep going. It's good to see the machines on that golf course working at Bungool. So fingers crossed. Bungool's a fantastic layout. It's a Harrison design layout, Bob Harrison, and I played it a few times. Really enjoyed it out there along the river, along the mighty Hawkesbury River. But fingers crossed, that's why it floods. It's a lot lower than the Ganguru course, the original golf course of Riverside Oaks, and it's right on the banks of the Hawkesbury River. So fingers crossed for Riverside, they can keep moving and go through the rebuild to get that course back open. It might take another year or so, or a couple of years even. But fingers crossed for them that they can do it, and I look forward to that day when it opens. Now we go to a public golf course, Woodville Golf Course in Sydney's west. Now it's getting a new fifth hole, completely rebuilt. Their fifth hole is a par 3. The construction of the hole has been completed. It's finally been finished, and it's now growing time for the putting green itself. There's lots of turf going around, the surrounds, and great to see that a public golf course like Woodville is getting a new golf hole. It doesn't always happen. Councils don't always invest, but this is good to see. It's an 18-hole golf course, and it's managed by the Cumberland City Council. And for those not sure, that's just to the south of Parramatta in Sydney's west. So it's sort of the midpoint between Sydney and the base of the Blue Mountains there on the Nepean River. So, yeah, very interesting to see. And good again, and I'll say it's good, that great to hear that the Cumberland City Council is investing in Woodville Golf Course to get a new golf hole built and redone there, the fifth hole. So fantastic. Now we go to Pennant Hills Golf Club, and they've announced a little bit of design changes and stuff there. They've announced that James Wiltshire will be involved in the redesign of the golf course. Look, you might recall that when I interviewed former Superintendent Liam Ash, that he mentioned the club had decided to use the services of the Gary Player Design Group for the redesign. Now, I'm not sure what's happened there, but clearly they've moved away from that and they've gone with James Wiltshire now. That was announced earlier this year, I believe, and it's an official announcement from the club that James Wiltshire is going to be involved in doing the full course redesign at Pennant Hills. So a slight change of tack there from the club, but one that will be interesting to see. I know James has done work on the golf course in design in the past as well. So there you go. That's what's happening there at Pennant Hills. Now we're going right up the north coast of New South Wales, up to the Queensland border, to Byron Bay Golf Club. And earlier this year, they opened their new 16th green. Brand new green built there on Byron Bay. It's an 18-hole golf course. Look, Byron's it's a dead set fantastic golf course to play. And one that I've been happy enough to say I played it a couple of times, really enjoyed it. And I still remember the first time I played it when I was being hounded by Nick Waugh from Airswing Media. A shout out to Nick. I've got to know Nick quite well over the years, and he's a fantastic guy. And Nick said to me, I remember sending me text messages and photos. And he's like, mate, you've got to come and play Byron. You've got to come and play Byron. And I ended up having a game with him and never looked back. Absolutely love the joint. So it's a golf course that you've got to, if you get the chance, you've got to get up there and play it. And now they've got a new 16th green. It's maintained in such an incredibly high standard, led by Superintendent Sean Cross up there at Byron. And like I said, if you're up the Gold Coast, northern New South Wales, it's an hour from the Goldie. So if you're flying in, put it on your list to play. A little bit out of the way if you like, but it's worth the drive. And Byron's a fantastic part of the world. So good stuff happening out at Byron Bay Golf Club as well. Now I'm going to move to public golf being under threat. Now, here's a little update. We know that Oakley Golf Club, the 9-hole golf course in Melbourne, was under threat from being closed by the council. It's a council-run golf course. And look, they were under the pump. They looked like they were going to be either modified or shut down altogether. And they've come out the other side. The council, not so long ago, I believe it was only a couple of months ago, they voted 10-1 to keep the golf course open. 10-1. So it was on the brink. Lots of chatter, lots of stuff going on, and they've said that they're going to keep it open, and they're not going to consider any alternative options for the site until the current management contract term ends in 2034. So that's good to hear. That's a good win for public golf in Melbourne. And Oakley's got a lot of great programs down there. Sandy Jamison, lots of people have talked about him and the programs that he runs out of there, looking after all sorts of different types of people from all sorts of different walks of life that enjoy Oakley. So it's a positive thing to hear about. They do about 30,000 rounds a year down there. Only 16% of the people who completed the council survey during the community consultation period voted to turn it into a public park, whilst an overwhelming 84% of people voted to keep it as a current 9-hole golf course. Now, that's pretty staggering considering the council were considering closing it down and turning it into a park because that's what they thought that it needed to be done. 84% of people said keep it open. Now, if that's not a slap in the face to the bullshit that comes out of some of these councils about closing down a golf course, I don't know what is. And they got voted down 10-1 within the councillors as well. So, two fronts. Pretty staggering, pretty heavy to say leave it as a 9-hole golf course, and thankfully they did. 4,000 people signed the petition to keep the golf course open. So all positive things happening at Oakley, and I had a chance when I was down there last. I went out there early one morning before everything was open, and I walked the course to see it, to understand the lay of the land and what it is, what it has, and what they were talking about. And I didn't get to do a pod on it, and I didn't have the time to do it, unfortunately, earlier this year. But I'm glad it's been one to stay. The council voted to keep it, and really, really positive things there to hear. Now, Moore Park Golf Course is under the pump in Sydney. You know, the fantastic 18-hole public golf facility in the middle of Sydney. I just did a podcast episode on it with Jared Kendler, who's a board member of the Moore Park Golf Club and leading the charge to keep the Moore Park Golf Course open, the public golf course, as it is. It's 18 holes, a championship golf course. Now, the consultation period's closed with the public. Everything's done. Anything you wanted to do could only have been done up to now already in terms of the consultation period. They've closed that down now, so now it's all up to seeing what turns out in the council, I guess, and how they move through it. What the government's going to do, ultimately, is what's going to happen. So they've got all the information they need. Now, to give you an idea, you just heard me talk about 30,000 rounds at Oakley Golf Club. Well, this year, Moore Park is heading for 100,000 rounds of golf. So that's a few. they've got the petition up for people to sign to keep it as 18 holes. You heard that I mentioned there was 4,000 signatures signed the petition to keep Oakley. Well, Moore Park has gone over 25,000 signatures to keep it open as an 18-hole golf course. There's lots of positives, and I've talked about it in the podcast episode with Jared, the last podcast episode, about why I think and why he thinks and what's involved in keeping Moore Park open and why it's so good. So it's pretty overwhelming on some of those basic numbers, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Fingers crossed. They've got an uphill battle. They are very much pushing shit uphill I believe, to keep it open. But I'm hoping that with the weight of public support and a lot of things involved and the centre of which Moore Park is involved in the local community there, that the government will see sense and they'll keep it as an 18-hole golf facility, which we're all really hoping for. So they've got an uphill battle to do so, but I'm really hoping that it stays that way. Now, one of the things you might have noticed is that South Australia, I didn't mention anything happening in South Australia, and that's because I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to phone a friend.
G'day, Steve.
Rowan Damon, superintendent of the Grange Golf Club in Adelaide. Welcome to a small spot, a slightly different one, a Walking the Fairways update, a news segment straight out of the Grange, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Steve. Yeah.
Mate, you have had your hands full, no doubt, in the lead up to LIV. This is a bit of an update for everyone to talk about just briefly how things are going on course. Pretty exciting time. Second time around. Everyone's pumped. Everything looks like it's going to be so much bigger. Mate, how has it been? How are you going there?
We're doing well, yeah. The course is shaping up well. Greens are looking good, looking better than last year, I feel. We probably haven't had the weather we had last year, which there's pros and cons around the weather we've had leading in this time. But, I think we're tracking along pretty well.
Awesome. Now, mate, for this segment, you're actually out walking the fairways right now on course. Is that right?
I'm just actually bending over, pulling out a couple of bits of stray poa as we speak.
Nice. So this is about as real and live as it gets. I love it, mate. I love it.
Right.
So let's talk just a couple of questions, mate. Won't take too much of your time because you have got so much going on, I know. But weather-wise, you just touched on there. How has it been leading up to this year, different to last year? Last year was quite wet. I assume you're saying that it's drier, probably swung the other way a lot, has it?
Yeah, certainly drier. We've I think we'd up until a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, we'd had probably a 50 or almost 60-day run of no rain.
Wow.
At all. And, we've had I'd probably say we've had 5 mil in the last couple of weeks, which was good to freshen things up a little bit. Last year we had 20 mil on the Saturday prior to the event. So
yes, that's right.
And another 10 mil in the sort of months before that. So, yeah, quite different. But, like I say, pros and cons come with both of those. So we're still tracking along pretty well.
Totally. And is that going to, obviously the place is going to be a little bit firmer around other areas, I suppose, like off fairway lines and that sort of stuff. Will greens be a little bit firmer? Will you be able to present that obviously firmer without that 20 mil just before the event type thing?
Yeah, hoping to be able to present them a little bit firmer. They were still not too bad last year, but certainly not as we would have liked them. But yeah, ran well, got the speed out of them, but just not that firmness. So maybe this year we might see them a little firmer and the speeds might elevate a little bit off the back of that as well.
Oh, very interesting. Test them out, man. I remember everyone listened to the interviews of the pros last year. I mean, they loved it. They talked about how much they enjoyed playing the Grange. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they compete this year. And we've got a few other bigger names on the tour this year, so it's going to be impressive yet again. Mate, tell us a little bit. The course for this year is a composite course of your two east and west courses. Is that right? There's a couple of holes of the different sides that make is it the same tournament course as it was last year? Are they doing the same holes?
Yeah, it is the same. It's back nine east is played as the front nine for them.
Yep.
And the back nine on the west. There is a couple of little changes within that, but
yes.
It's just easier to tell you that.
Yep.
Back nine. But
yeah, cool.
Yeah, it is the same course as last year, and a lot bigger build this year. The infrastructure is probably up by, there's some stands out here that weren't here last year
at all.
I think, Yeah, and so there's about 14 or 15 extra viewing platforms around the place, which are, I guess, quite similar to seated
Wow.
spectated areas, but just standing off the ground sort of thing. But the corporate areas are up by about 30% capacity, and they're expecting another 8 to 10,000 spectators in per day. So
Dead set.
Hoping for 90,000 over the 3 days.
Holy shit, that's going to be amazing.
It's going to be pretty wild.
Last year was wild, mate. I think it's just going to be incredible to see how it goes this year. So that was one of the things I was going to talk about. The build's been bigger. One stat I remember when we spoke last year on the pod was that you were saying there was something like 180 to 200 semi-trailer loads of equipment and materials come in last year alone. How has that increased? I assume that there's more. And has it been more streamlined that you've already got one under your belt to build and now you're doing it for a second time?
It's certainly more streamlined. We've got a company here called IEDM. They do the F1 build and another couple of other bigger events.
Wow, okay.
They manage. So it's been a lot more streamlined for that fact. There seems to be less turf damage that's done up to this point, but that might be the weather as well. So
yeah, sure.
We're sort of it has been far more streamlined. So it's certainly a lot more semi-trailers this year, that's for sure.
Well, and with that comes, like you said, the bigger capacity is going. It was full on last year. I'm just flashback now while we're talking because I was at last year's event, and actually, incidentally, I have just booked my flight, so I will be there on Sunday again this year, mate. I haven't told you that until just now, so that's only just been confirmed. So I'm pretty excited about getting down there, and I should be down there early-ish. Whether I get to see much beforehand, last time I got in right on kickoff, so. Pretty pumped. But as far as I want to go back to a little bit of the turf services. I remember some stats and things from last year off the top of my head. Correct me if I'm wrong. Fairways were like 6 mil or something like that. Is that right?
Fairways were at 8.
8 mil?
Last year. We did try and get them down a little lower this year, but that with the humid summer we had a bit of scalping and had to end up lifting them up a little bit. So
okay,
we have done that. Greens will be at 2.5 this year, and tees and surrounds will be at 6 mil.
That's where I got the 6. There you go, tees. So there's going to be some really good running games. So a little bit dry lead in, obviously. Your surfaces, like you said, you've tried to do a little bit tighter, a little bit shorter, and trying to make that work as best you can. So I'm picturing it's going to be a little bit more of a ground game potentially involved this year from watching the players play with any luck.
Yeah, there might be. I mean, Grange plays as a firm sort of running course as it is anyway. So
yep.
We're sort of probably expecting that anyway. The roughs certainly aren't as penalising as they were last year.
Yeah, okay.
We're not. I mean, they didn't hit it in the rough anyway. But I'm not. I didn't put any or much effort into growing the roughs up this year. So
okay. So it's all around the short stuff. We'll be watching very, very keenly. And like I said, some new names and new faces in this year. It's going to be great to watch. Mate, can I ask you, closing out, the volunteers that are helping you out this year? I've spoken to a couple of people, and I know some people that are on the books to come down and help you out volunteer-wise. How are you going with that? How many people do you have to build up the team as we get right into the day? What are we, 2 weeks out, are we?
Yeah, that's right.
Shit.
We've got 33 of our own staff, which is our normal number.
Yep.
And then we'll have 30 volunteers.
On top.
32 maybe volunteers from all around the place. Got it from as far as Broome. They'll be coming down.
Yes,
So
Jason Johnson from Broome.
Jason and Callum from up there in Broome. So they're right. They'll be good fun. A couple of guys from Perth and a few from up in Queensland and from all over the place, and good to see we've got a good South Australian number here this year. We've got 10 or 12 from SA as well, so that'll be great.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, it's going to be fantastic, mate. Look, it's certainly good to hear that it's all going well. It's been probably, by the sounds of it, more streamlined and potentially less headaches, I guess, leading in. You knew this one was coming, right? Not like last year where you found out sort of a few months. I think you said 5 months out last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I actually probably feel a little bit more pressure and stress this year than I did last for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm still relatively relaxed. I think everything's right on track for us, so I feel pretty good about it.
Fantastic, mate. Well, look, really excited about it. I really appreciate you taking the time out mid-stride and while you're out there literally walking the fairways, mate, to give us a bit of an update. We're all pumped. I'm going to be there. Lots of other people are going to be there, bigger than last year, mate. So really excited. Congratulations to you and the team and everyone involved. I'm looking forward to it, and I know everyone else is, mate. So well done, and I really appreciate your time, Rowan.
Thanks, Steve. Look forward to seeing you all here.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. How is that? A live update right from the golf course at the Grange Golf Club in Adelaide, courtesy of Superintendent Rowan Damon, in preparation for LIV Adelaide in just under a couple of weeks. Now, it's not long to go, so I really appreciate it, and thanks to Rowan Damon again for that live Walking the Fairways. How good was that? Something new to Walking the Fairways, keep it a little bit interesting, keep it a little bit fresh. Now, I just want to take a moment to say thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. Without you, there is no point me doing this. I really appreciate everyone around the world, but certainly, obviously, in Australia as well. I know there's a great following in Australia, but I'm also getting, I've got to be honest, never, ever thought this would happen. The followers and the listens from people all over the planet, in the US, in New Zealand, the UK, Germany. Strangely enough, in a way, I say strange because I just never thought there'd be so many people listening in Germany. It's all over. It's over 95 countries around the world that people are listening to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. So I really do say thank you. I tip my hat to you and say thank you. I really do appreciate it. It's very humbling to think that people are listening to it so far and wide. I hope you're enjoying it. Please give it a like, share and a follow, as the besties say in the podcast world. This is the best way to get it around and being heard more. And like I said, I appreciate that. It really gets it around. I want to try and make sure this goes even further. It builds. It gets even bigger. So the more you share it to people, if you know someone who you think might be interested in listening to these things, don't forget about the segments, but also Walking the Fairways, these updates about what's happening to golf courses around Australia. But the other segments, the Keeper of the Greens, which I've got some more episodes coming out not too far away. Going to be providing you with some more of them. We've got the design brief. What else is there? There's so much to talk about. The boardroom. It's going to keep coming. So I'm hoping to bring more and more to you as life gets back on track with us here at home a little bit better. And I've got a special one coming out. I'm going to say I've got a special person that I'm inviting to the podcast that I'm going to interview. It's one that I'm excited to do. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I'll keep that up my sleeve. You will know about it, and I'm hoping to sort that one out in the next month or so. I'll just keep that one and let that one sink in with you. So keep an eye out when you see the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast come up as a notification. Make sure you click subscribe on the podcast platform that you're listening to. Like I said, please like, share, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Pass around wherever you can. Leave me a review. That's one thing I've been missing for a little while. I haven't done some for a while. So please write a review on the platform you're on. It makes a massive difference to how people are seeing it and when it pops up in their searches and the like as well. So I'm going to leave you with it. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.